The Sky Crawlers. Originally written in Japanese by Mori Hiroshi. Translated by Ryujui Siryoin. Cover illustration by MM. Cover design by MM. This work was first published in Japan in 2001. Japanese edition copyright 2001 Mori Hiroshi / Twokuron Shinsha. English edition copyright 2017 Mori Hiroshi / the BBB. Breakthrough Bandwagon Books. All rights reserved. The cockpit of Sanka Mark B is not spacious. It best suits my rather small frame. Compared to Mark A, an earlier version, in respect of its shape, its cowling is relatively low and the rear end of its canopy is swelled. It drastically improves its visibility both on the front and the rear sides. I can definitely say that this influence is enormous. Beside that, two automatic cannons, which are mounted on left and right wings on both sides of Mark A, are now mounted at the bottom of the fuselage for Mark B. I have heard that it is a desperate measure in order to make the wings thinner. Due to the unexpected improvement of the moment of inertia, rolling movement, which has already been good enough to be called a windmill, has shown further refinement. This feature of the improvement is welcomed by the pilots most. Generally speaking, those who do not fly planes value catalog data, statistics, of weapons, whereas those who fly planes tend to give top priority to how light the handling of the control stick is. The former seriously worry that an airplane crashes due to the lack of the pilot's skill, and the latter always fear that a pilot dies due to the lack of the performance of the airplane. Since the first airplane in the history took off, this gap of mentality has been widening and not been narrowing. I am flying behind Tokino's aircraft, while maintaining a slightly higher altitude with respect to him. Clouds are preventing me from seeing the ground. Below me is pure white, above me is blue, and at the zenith is the sun. The vibration of the engine I am feeling from behind is comfortable to me. It is my favorite frequency. It is as if I am given a massage. I have yet to try the engine breathing I heard about from Sasakura, the mechanic, this morning. It is 13:12 now. Each time I fly, I listen to music. Honestly, I want to turn up the volume to the extent that I cannot hear any other sounds. But I should not do that while on duty. Of course, I would get in trouble if I failed to hear the radio communication transmissions. Besides, other than that, I have to be able to catch any sounds because they are very important information for me. Abnormal sound from the engine, fuselage, and airframe. The sound from the linkage of the steering mechanisms. Buzzing sound of the propellers. Signals from the instrument panel. So, the music that I listen to should be set at a low volume. The tranquil melody works as a trigger. All I have to do is to pay attention to the sound coming over the music. If anything, I prefer loud music. But it cannot be helped. I sometimes think I occasionally get the opportunity to be able to listen to the loud music as I like on my way back from a solo scouting mission. So, I put such type of music media in my flight bag. I have yet to get the opportunity to listen to it so far. I have already made up my mind to listen to it when I am cornered to the level that I can do nothing about anything. In that case, I hope I can die before the playback of the music media ends. The cloud below me is globular like a bubble. The cloud above me is gray and flat. I fly straight between them. Since the takeoff, I have heard Tokino's voice through my earphones just once. The communication is coming in just when the landing gears are retracted. I am in the middle of a slow climb to the clouds.
Do not tell me. This is not your first experience, is it?
He asks so abruptly.
What do you mean by this? This mission? Or this aircraft?
Aircraft.
This is not the first time for me to aviate Mark B.
I reply.
Then, you know the engine breathing, don't you?
Tokino asks.
We should not talk through the radio communication.
Okay.
After that, there is no radio communication anymore for the time being. To engage in the mission according to the plan, we fly toward west-southwest. The temperature at the ground level is close to 30 degrees Celsius, so I want to soar in the open sky as soon as I can. It is my first flight in a week. The brightness of the sun in the sky is as usual. My face reflected on the polycarbonate surface of the instrument panel looks relieved for some reason. I may have to take my time occasionally to recognize my own presence. It is getting very cold before I know it. I feel the chill around my knees. But my physical health condition is in a very good shape. It is the first time in 2 months to aviate this type of aircraft. I soon notice that this ranks the highest among the Mark BS that I have ever piloted. I guess the previous pilot of this particular aircraft was such a tidy person. The interior of this aircraft is as neat and clean as the one displayed in a museum. I mean, no trace of stickers used for attaching photographs, no scratches of anyone's initials, no marks for counting something, or no scribbling of modified versions of phrases by poets. Can it be that the mechanic crew named Sasakura has cleaned it up? No, he would never do that. Mechanics usually do not get their hands on a cockpit like a human stomach. This space is outside the plane from their point of view. Come to think of it, I did not smell any human odor when I entered the cockpit. No trace of artificial perfume either. I like it that way because I dislike that sort of thing. Only for that reason, I have come to like this aircraft. In many cases, I end up getting a headache in anyone else's aircraft because of the pilot's odor. I just cannot stand anyone else's aircraft even more than somebody else's car, clothes, rooms, or beds. Why? It is because I cannot just switch to a different aircraft or get out of the cockpit in the middle of the flight. Tokino's airplane slightly shakes its wings twice. He seems to be thinking of descending. I start to wonder if we have already been flying for so long, and I read the clock. I am sinking into the cloud. I close the throttle to keep some distance from Tokino's aircraft. My aircraft vibrates a little. A slight feeling of floating. I love this particular sensation beyond description that I experience when descending. I feel good. It is as if various relationships are getting vague, or as if the things surrounding me are getting away from me. I want to keep falling endlessly, toward the center of the earth. I always associate such thing with one another. All of my coworkers often say that they love the acceleration on their backs when ascending. I think differently, the opposite. I can feel that I am released from something when I am descending more strongly than when I am ascending. Probably, I feel that I am being released from the inconveniences of living in this world. For any living creatures, nothing can be bigger restraints than that.
From my point of view, you seem to want to die. Is that right?
I wonder who has said so. It's Ameno. He was such a clown. When did his aircraft crash? Was it in summer 2 years ago, if I remember correctly? While crashing, he said to everyone, something like this.
Tell the auntie in the cafeteria that Ameno ran away.
As I recall that, it is making me snigger. He was not the type of guy who could say such an elegant joke. Probably, it was the best one he had been thinking about and preparing for quite a long time. I have just passed through the cloud. A black forest appears faintly. Ameno probably saw such a black forest, I think.
Even though the Earth is approaching straight, it is strange that there is no hole.
He might have thought so. Immediately after the cloud has disappeared, I can search for Tokino's aircraft. He is at the higher altitude than I am. There is quite a distance between us. He is shaking the wings again. He seems to be concerned about me. I chuckle alone again. Contrary to the previous impression of him, he is such type of guy unexpectedly. That's really none of his business, I think. I fly above the forest for a while. Then, I see a large river. I lower the altitude, and then direct the vector toward the upstream part of the river along the riverfront. Both sides of the river are adjacent to flat plain lands. In the distance, I see farmlands or meadows. White houses are sparsely located here and there. However, visibility is hazy due to light rain. I cannot see anything in the distance. There should be a dam, then a lake. Our scouting target is located near the vicinity. Almost 1 hour has passed after we took off from the base. 80% of my attention is concentrated on the upper sky above us. Paying attention to the lower sky below us is Tokino's duty. The canopy is getting wet. I look to the side, and find a vapor trail forming around the edge of the wing and streaming backward. I lower the altitude even more. Probably because of the aftermath of the heavy rain, the river appears to be swollen. The soil-colored surface of the water is getting closer to me. I descend to the elevation that is a little higher than both of the riverbanks. It is a dangerous altitude if a bridge is within the vicinity. The throttle is hardly closed. If I do not hold it down, the aircraft tends to float due to the ground effect. I think that the number of raindrops hitting the canopy has increased. I swallow the saliva, and then the volume of sound surrounding me increases suddenly. Tokino's aircraft is flying in front of me on the right. Its cockpit is hidden behind the misty canopy, and the figure of the pilot is invisible. The mountain is approaching. The width of the river is gradually narrowing. The engine sound is stable. It sounds lyrical. It is the proof that we have a skilled mechanic. I know what is really precious. There is nothing more valuable than a skilled mechanic. You have nothing to lose by making him your lover. The engine sound of my aircraft is overlapping with the sound from Tokino's aircraft. Smooth sound. The sound is as comfortable to my ears as the touch of a smooth blanket. I look back toward the higher altitude, the sky to the upper rear, several times. Fortunately, the sky is not too blindingly bright. The ground below us appears to be getting elevated. It is like the growth of the Black Forest is raising the ground level. It is as if I were traveling backward in the history toward the ancient times. There is no house or no road around the vicinity. The river gently curves to the right. Tokino leans the main wing sideways. I also lower the right wing. Every time I engage in a maneuver like this, I feel as if I were playing with a bobsled. In fact, I have never even skied. I have flown above the snow, but I have never touched it with my hands. My comrades say, in chorus,
If I were to crash, I would much rather do so on the snow.
I am not sure why they would say so, because I do not know what snow is. Over the edge of the lowered wing, I see the mud-colored surface of the water. The sand of a sandbank is wider than the river. As planned, the dam appears in front of us. Since I have expected it to be white, I am surprised by the fact that it is far more blackish than anticipated. Several streaks of black stripes are lined up on the surface vertically. I put the boost on the throttle a bit. I slightly put the control stick to the left to make the wings horizontally level. I wait for Tokino's ascent. It is still a horizontal flight. Moreover, its speed is not increasing. There is only about 300 meters of distance between him and the dam. It is about time that he would raise the pitch of the aircraft. However, Tokino has yet to start ascending. The dam is closing on and getting closer. I study the landscapes on both sides of the dam. It is too narrow for us to turn to the left or to the right. Still, he is flying straight. Is he sleeping? I think so in a moment. He was looking like he was suffering from a hangover this morning. Oh, no. This is the limit. When I try to pull the control stick, Tokino lowers the right wing a little. He is revving up the engine. The reaction torque is causing the aircraft to tilt. I too push up the throttle lever at once. Tokino raises the nose of his aircraft. The aircraft is still leaning to the right. Is he taking the reaction torque into account? He is intending to ascend diagonally. Needless to say, I remember the issue pertaining to the engine breathing. I am adding my strength to my left hand on the throttle lever, but I have just decided to have faith in it and let go of the throttle lever. What is it that I am having faith in? What am I believing in? I think so, with a little delay. The engine starts racing in a few seconds. In the middle, the engine breathes once. The interval is so short that no human can control it for sure. Splendid, I feel. The engine roars frantically. The aircraft vibrates. The vapor trail streams out from the nose. I feel the acceleration on my back, see the cloudy sky in front of me, and wonder why I wish for nothing in a situation like this. The angle is so steep that I feel as if I were climbing the concrete dam. Although the velocity is decreasing, I am still barely ascending. Indeed, this is heavy, for sure. If the engine had a little more power, then the awkward time like this would have been reduced. I fly over the dam and keep ascending. Of course, I adjust the attitude to a far more gentle angle. I shake the aircraft and look at the surface of the lake. The surface in the distance is green. It seems to lead to the farthest part. A road is to the right. I find a railway beyond the road. I see a factory, located even farther. While viewing the landscape, I ascend higher. Before the velocity gets insufficient, I dare to control the aileron boldly and perform the inverted flight. With a half roll, I regain the level flight. I take a deep breath. Tokino's aircraft is still flying inverted at the higher altitude. Again, I look down at the target. I cannot find anything that is moving. No trace of humans. No cars. As of now, we have not been shot from below. Attacks from underneath can indeed get nasty. The absence of attacks is the proof that there is nothing in the target. It means that we have come here to make sure so. I always feel this way. I realize that I end up feeling disappointed for some reason, even though I should feel relieved when I encounter nothing in a scouting task like this. The aggressive side of me seems to live around my right hand that is gripping the control stick. He rails at me. I wanted to blast this baby. I am feeling the urge to take my glove off to see his face. After making turns and drawing large circles, we are heading for the factory. Tokino is now flying normally. Executing an inverted flight for more than 10 seconds with this particular type of aircraft is dangerous. Its fuel system just cannot catch up on the maneuver. The fact that its mechanism is more fragile than humans is a situation that the one who is aviating the plane should feel comfortable about. As far as my observation can tell, the factory does not seem to be in operation. I heard that the plant is designed for processing minerals. I find long belt conveyors, but cannot tell whether they actually work.
Shall we go back?
I hear Tokino's voice through the radio.
Okay. Let's do so.
I reply. After seeing the cockpit of Tokino's aircraft beside me, I look to the upper rear direction toward the higher sky. At that moment, I find 3 black dots floating in the gray part of the cloud.